Welcome to the Star Trek Critic, where each episode is graded like a school project, starting with 100 points, taking away 1 point for each error, and I make slightly snarky commentary as well, which doesn't always match what happened in the show. Just a reminder, some Trek-related science errors are exempt since there would be no show without them, and still photos are used extensively to prevent copyright claims, since copyright claims suck. Today's episode is The Best of Both Worlds, Both Parts, which is a fan favorite, and even though it starts as a Season 3 cliffhanger, here it is treated as the entire first episode of Season 4. The plot of this show? The Borg. Yes! The first point is lost since they arrive in slightly different positions than when they started. Scooping up cities seems to be something the Borg don't normally do, and I would take a point. However, it is possible that each Borg cube has a unique way of assimilating.
But I will take a point since, how did the ship's scanners not see this?
Admiral Hansen says, "We've been working on the Borg threat for a year and we've got nothing." The next point is lost since Commander Shelby would have shown up with her entire task force, not just by herself. Look close, an away team has already been scheduled for dawn. Riker invites Admiral Hansen to poker, but not Commander Shelby. That's sexist. Look closely. This shadow is of a boom mic, not Commander Riker's hand, so minus 1 point. Admiral Hansen admits to being a dirty old man. This is Picard maneuver number 1. Suddenly, Picard thinks Admiral Hansen is Earl Grey. Admiral Hansen is correct here. Riker needs to step up into that captain's chair, or all the other commanders are just going to pass him by. Hansen tells Picard to give Riker a good old-fashioned ass-whooping. Sometimes the still photos make what they're saying look like pickup lines, like when they walk into her quarters and she says, "I don't know exactly what I'm looking for." Riker thinks looking for the Borg is like hunting for Bigfoot. This comment doesn't add up, since Geordi and Data are the only ones on the away team. This is not a mistake on Commander Shelby's part. She is really excited on becoming a first officer, and naturally figured that Riker would be too busy to join the away mission, which in the real world he probably would be.
Of course, she could have worded this better. Telling anyone, "I'm here to take your job," will be taken the wrong way. And Riker should know, in the world of superfast internet, everyone in Starfleet knows who's up for promotions, except for Captain Picard, who is drunk on Earl Grey.
1 point lost for leaving an obvious gap for the camera. This could be slang for something dirty in the future, you never know. Another point lost for them not knowing how to play poker. Wesley has 3 jacks, which already beats Shelby's hand. Data says Riker may be bluffing, and then folds because he always falls for Riker's bluffs. The whole purpose of this scene is for Shelby to beat Riker, and we all knew that. This line also might mean something dirty in the future too. Another point lost here, Data would have notified Riker that they were leaving early. Riker's right leg is straight, and now it is bent, so 1 more point lost. Another point lost here, Data is a 30-year-old supercomputer. He should know the phrase, "early bird gets the worm." The expert on the Borg says, "If the Borg arrive, 2 extra bodies won't make a difference." And another point lost. There should be a big research team on the surface. After all, the ship's got a crew of 1,000. Don't any of the other ones work? According to these star dates, Admiral Hansen got out to the Enterprise in about a day. Then 1 day later, only 8 hours have passed on the stardate calendar, so minus 1 point. Picard says, "Commander Riker, what do you think of Shelby? I'm thinking of asking her out." Picard gives Riker a very good pep talk on taking that promotion, but Riker says, "If I go to another ship, I won't be on TV anymore." Picard says the Melbourne is a good ship. Riker says, "Yeah, but it's not the Lollipop."
No, the name of my ship is the Lollipop. It's just been commissioned. It's a good ship.
This is Picard maneuver number 2. Ironically, Picard tells Will the Enterprise will go along fine without him, but it's Picard that gets abducted by the Borg. Riker cries to Deanna that he's lost his mojo. Deanna says she doesn't know what I'm talking about, but that's why she left him. This conversation should have ended with Riker considering mentoring Shelby as a first officer. That way he will feel much more comfortable passing the torch to her and then moving on to the captain's chair.
In this scene, they bicker about the Borg, discuss the complex backup system the Borg cube has, and Wesley is wrong when he says they barely scratched the surface the last time. Geordi's mind has turned to clay and he blames it all on the third baseman. Riker says it's time to go home so I can check my Tinder account. Riker is concerned about them fighting their own fatigue, then says reconvene at 05. That just threw his concern right out the window. Commander Shelby discriminates against Data, saying he's an android so doesn't need rest. That's racist. This scene symbolizes her really wanting to bitch slap him right now.
The next point is lost for Admiral Hansen not having a reflection on the conference table. This is the second and last time you hear about the Lalo. The Lalo is referred to as she. When Admiral Hansen says he needs starships, isn't this what you think?
What does God need with a starship? What does God need with a starship?
6 days away means they are way, way out there. And I just learned that nutation is a real word. Until I saw the captioning, I thought they were saying mutation. Geordi tells Picard what his favorite Peter Sellers movie is. Another point lost since the Enterprise would not travel into a confrontation alone. Admiral Hansen should have gone with him, but God needed a starship and ran off. Worf says, number 1. The Enterprise has engaged the Borg. Yes! Jean-Luc ponders his existence. He's like, what do you mean they're calling me by name? The next point is lost for a boom mic shadow in the reflection. Picard tells him his license plate number. He demands the Borg lower their shields. So Commander Shelby, expert on the Borg, how did you not see this one coming? Picard tries the Corbomite maneuver, but it only works with Captain Kirk. So does this Borg ship also have a Borg Queen? I say it does not. Riker does Picard maneuver number 3. This confrontation gives Riker a chance to be snarky with Shelby. 1 point lost here because the nacelles cannot fire phasers. They really like cutting into that same section of engineering. 1 point lost for an extra going down the ladder and out this door instead of the one upstairs, and another point lost for Geordi's unnecessary role. He just wanted to look macho. This always makes you wonder, why didn't they think of this sooner, and why weren't they doing this for the past 30 years? 1 point lost for a single set of doors on the turbolift. Sadly, we never learned the names of the good people we lost. Aww. There is a seal hole breach. That means the seals are going to get out and they'll have nothing to eat. The Paulson Nebula only exists in the Star Trek universe. Picard has the ship hide in the clouds because in reality, he's a big coward and doesn't have the backbone to confront the Borg. The Borg ship stops at the edge because in reality, Borg drones are afraid of clouds. What a bunch of pussies. The monitor reflects here, unlike Admiral Hansen because God doesn't have a reflection. This is the meeting where they decide to use the main deflector dish. Shelby suggests separating the ship. 1 point is lost for not separating now and keeping the families safe in the nebula. 1 point is lost for Federation starships not having unmanned drones 300 years in the future to confuse the enemy. We do that now, and they did it in Battlestar Galactica, and it works. Riker performs Picard maneuver number 4. Then he lets Geordi know how long is a Chinese name. Geordi acknowledges his own existence. Riker asks, do you think I'm going to score with Shelby? Geordi says, you won't think that after the next scene, and then I'll get my turn. Now you know what he means when he says he's going to install higher capacity power transfers. Shelby knows she's wrong here. If she followed the chain of command, Picard might have agreed with her. But since she went around Riker, Picard's going to look into those reasons not to even more. They're all thinking Shelby's going to get an ass whooping. Riker finally gets a backbone and tells her off. But Shelby was ready for it and outgunned him. They are all about to be assimilated by the Borg, and she is the only one totally focused on her career in Starfleet. According to the stardate, about 1 day has passed. Picard rides the elevator one last time and takes one last walk through the ship, contemplating whether or not his contract negotiations will be successful for Season 4. Of course, the enemy are the producers, not the Borg, although they're a lot alike. There is no way 10 forward would be empty, so minus 1 point. The entire crew would be here for one last drink, followed by the pre-assimilation orgy in the Arboretum. Guinan says, this isn't over, you still have a bar tab.
I want my $2!
1 point lost for continuity since the Elorians never told the Federation about the Borg for 100 years, so this is all their fault. They should have left them in the Nexus where they were happy listeners all the time. Look close, somebody stole all the 3D chess pieces. 1 point lost for one set of doors on the fake turbolift. The Borg are dropping depth charges to flush out the submarine. In the middle of all this danger, they do Picard maneuver 5 and 6. That means it's time for a drink. 300 years in the future, they still say fire up the engines for no real reason. A nebula is massive. They would not have left right next to where they came in and the Borg, so minus 1 point. Worf gets to kill a Borg. Yes! They should really consider using crossbows. I bet old-fashioned technology would get through that shield. But tell Commander Riker this was not what I was talking about, and that was kind of stupid of him. Look close, Worf jumps over that wooden thing, and the Borg take Picard. I guess his contract negotiation wasn't successful. Did you ever notice when Kirk left the ship, Spock took over instantly, but Riker just stumbles around? It would be impossible to see two ships traveling at warp speed like that, so -1 point. O'Brien does not know the captain has been abducted yet, so -1 point. So wouldn't all star systems call their home system Sector 001? This is the first time the Borg say resistance is futile. However, in the original series, Spock said it once. Picard is going to speak to his people, not for his people. The Borg is just one big socialist anthill. They almost have the weapon ready, and they're almost out of power. Just like any Star Trek episode.
Typical.
This is Riker's biggest blunder. He should know he's in charge of the Enterprise right now. And now Deanna gets to make him look stupid in front of 3 high-ranking women. And a few low-ranking female extras. He's definitely not getting laid tonight. And 1 point lost for telling Commander Shelby she's in charge of the bridge because Data is next in line. According to the stardate, 16 hours have passed with only about 3 at the most, so -1 point. And it's New Year's Eve. It looks like they're planning for a big Borg fireworks show. 1 point lost for the second in command and chief of security beaming together. It should have been a large security force. It will always be impossible to match warp speed, so -1 point, and it will be impossible to transport at 884 times the speed of light, so -1 more point. -1 point for arriving closer together, and -1 point for not beaming facing in an outward circle for safety. Beverly is mesmerized by a big flashing triangle. Dr. Crusher saves the day. It turns out, once you get through the Borg's shield, their defenses are minimal, and that continues on through Voyager. Space is big. What if the Borg don't even go near Wolf 359 and approach Earth from a different route? 1 point lost here. Data should be walking backwards in case anybody comes up from behind. They just learned Patrick Stewart's guilty pleasure. He's running around the Borg ship naked. 1 point lost for Deanna in a cat suit. The men shoot while the women just stand there. That's sexist. Wesley says I number 2. 40,000 kilometers is too far away for that weapon to be effective, so -1 point. Beverly sees Picard first, and this is a great special effect. No CGI was used at all. Look close. Data holds Beverly back. Worf passes 2 Borg to get to Picard, but then when he beams up, they're gone, so -1 point. 1 point lost for not reporting about Picard from the transporter room. They are living on borrowed time. The crew pleads their case on making another rescue attempt. Locutus is a Latin word which means the Borg really probed Picard's mind. Locutus lets them know his contract negotiations for Season 4 haven't been going very well, but he's got a good deal in a Star Trek spin-off as a Borg king, so he's going to take off with the Borg ship. Then he says, your series was going to be cancelled without me. Riker says, there's no way in hell you're going to get a spin-off and have us cancelled, so I'm going to blow up your ship. And -1 point for an end-of-season cliffhanger because those are really annoying after a while. This type of blast would push the Enterprise backwards, but it didn't, so -1 point. Geordi says, I can't hold it anymore, I gotta go to the bathroom. It's possible the Borg shield is taking a beating absorbing all this energy. They just can't see it. This is the Borg's way of saying, haha, you're screwed now. This first officer's log lets you know the Enterprise crew had a really crappy New Year's Eve party. Wolf 359 is a real star about 8 light years from Earth. It is the 5th closest star to us. Shelby warns Admiral Hansen that the Borg know what Picard knows. Admiral Hansen calls Commander Shelby a lieutenant, so -1 point. We learn Picard was the only freshman ever to win the Academy Marathon, and Commander Riker says, I want to know that guy. And Beverly got to know him very, very well. One of these days we're gonna learn their dirty little secret. And now the Armada is screwed. He should have listened to Commander Shelby. This is Shelby's way of saying, it was nice knowing you. Admiral Hansen got this message idea from Michael Scott. Commander Riker got a field promotion to captain. He was already in line to be captain anyways, so this promotion should stay with him forever, shouldn't it? Shelby wishes the circumstances were different. She wanted to be captain, of course. This is a different assimilation than normal. However, the Borg want Picard to be user-friendly with the humans on Earth, so he doesn't get completely transitioned. The whole purpose of this scene is to show the magic trick with the elevator. Barclay is mentioned but not seen. Shelby and Riker have a bonding moment. They actually make a good team now that they kissed and made up. Data calls it Wolf 359, not Wolf 359. It must be an android thing.
Engage the Borg at Wolf 359, sir.
Data would not automatically sit down at the helm when Riker comes on, so -1 point. Admiral Hansen realizes he should have listened to Commander Shelby, so now he's going to come back as a fake god luring Cybok to the center of the galaxy. This implies all the ships have been destroyed, since none have escaped and called for help. Worf is a lieutenant, so isn't next in line to be first officer. He didn't even consider Lieutenant Commander LaForge, and Data automatically fills the position just like Riker automatically filled the position of captain. This is a rare time you see 3 female officers in the conference room, but Commander Shelby is not a member of the crew. She is the Borg Task Force commander, so -1 point for not promoting Data or Dr. Crusher, who outranks them all. Worf and Data are both thinking, yeah, they had sex. Nanites are an excellent idea of fighting the Borg since that's what they use to assimilate humans. Of course, Wesley Mom is going to steal his creation and take credit for the whole thing. This discussion isn't productive at all, and Riker's speech is rather self-defeating. This is Picard maneuver number 7. Riker is looking at the empty captain's chair and is thinking, I wonder how much those ancient artifacts will go for. Guinan comes in to collect Captain's bar tab. She doesn't give up, does she?
$2.
Riker asks if she's thinking about the second baseman. Guinan complains that the rest of the crew is having a big last battle orgy in 10 Forward because they think this is the end. Riker is thinking, is that where Deanna went? Because she is the ship's counselor and should be telling me this, but you keep taking all her lines away from her. Isn't that cultural appropriation? You never learn exactly when Picard and Guinan met the second time. Guinan gives excellent advice and then goes back to the orgy in 10 Forward. Captain Riker performs Picard maneuver number 8 and then number 9. This is why Shelby is first officer, so Data doesn't have to sit back down at ops like he did just a few minutes ago. Look close, Jonathan Frakes sits down really slow. Several years ago he had a back injury, which is why sometimes he does something that is called a Riker maneuver. This is Riker maneuver number 10. Poor timing for a drink, but hey, they're having an orgy in 10 Forward, so let's go ahead and swig one. This is special effects' greatest dream. They get to smash up a whole bunch of Star Trek models. There went the Melbourne, so neither Riker or Shelby will get their promotions. The next point is lost for not looking around for survivors in escape pods. Captain Riker says, you know, screw the Borg, I'm gonna beat Captain Picard at his own game. Now the crew does the change of bridge crew shuffle. The Borg ship took a blast from the Enterprise, then it battled 40 ships. Just because it won both battles, it took a beating too, so it also has to stop from time to time for repairs. Don't think the Borg ship is invincible. If it was, Earth would have been assimilated already. Someday I will have to make a video of how many times the battle bridge was used as a different ship. This is Picard maneuver number 11. Locutus says, you're trying to deceive me, aren't you? He's onto them. 1 point lost here. Data and Worf should have already been in the shuttlecraft, and they knew the transporter wouldn't work. Data says I, number 3. Here's proof the Borg ship is damaged. It takes a long time for the Enterprise to separate. The Borg ship would have just left or destroyed them, but it just sat there. Riker's tactic is to use Picard's knowledge against him. The next point is lost for Data making constant communication with the Enterprise. The Borg could pick it up. This is just for the audience to know what's going on. Flying through the Borg shield is easy. It's just designed at deflecting phaser blasts. 1 point lost for not bringing extra security, 1 point lost for 2 high-ranking officers on the same mission, and 1 point for not facing opposite directions for beaming. Just how many times does Captain Picard get drugged in this episode? Of course the rescue mission worked. Yes! Geordi says I, number 4. This is the 3rd battle with the Borg. They suffered a minor defeat and are totally incapable of taking out the Enterprise, so they just take off. Riker says, give him more drugs. Worf says, there is no more time, give him more drugs. While Crusher puts more drugs into him, you wonder, what kind of a pillow is that? This is why Riker kidnapped Locutus, because Picard would never have it approved. So either the Borg think this abduction was a waste of time, or else they're trying to let the Enterprise crew think that. Data wants to separate the man from the machine. That sounds painful. Worf always gets the best lines.
I like my species the way it is.
Picard gets drugged again. The Borg slow down so they can check out Saturn's rings. Data shows off his new hairdo. Locutus comes down just like Frankenfurter did in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. As usual, 300 years in the future, Earth's defense systems really suck. We are screwed. That was not a defense perimeter, that was a welcoming party. 1 point lost for slowing to impulse at Saturn's orbit. They should have stayed at warp all the way up to Earth with a trajectory that wouldn't go near the outer planets. Data makes the connection with the Borg and then says processing 4 times. Then he says fascinating, so we can't take a drink. Captain Picard wakes up and scares the shit out of Data. 1 point lost here. That whack would not cause him to do a backflip over that rail. Riker does Picard maneuver number 11. Worf says the Borg halted their approach to Earth, but when we see them, they're in orbit. Beverly discovers the Borg weakness in their little Marxist empire where they are programmed to think all the same thing. Someone can just pop in and give a subliminal command that will wipe them all out, since they have no skill to think for themselves. Now it's just a matter of time to figure out which subliminal command will work. The Borg are in orbit around Earth. That explains why they stopped. Worf says I number 5, which means it's time for one possible last drink. Data says he is unable to penetrate. He should go see a doctor about that. Either Shelby is panicking or she gave up real quick. 1 point lost since the Borg cut here before and there's no sign of damage. Riker says plot a collision course. Wesley's like, are you shitting me? I just got promoted and all my friends are down in 10 Ford having an end of battle orgy while I'm stuck here on the bridge. Now I'm going to die a virgin just because I'm a child genius.
A typical fraud.
Geordi says I number 6. 1 point lost. Warp collision is not the best last option. They should have gone through the Borg shield and fired at point blank range. Picard saves the day. As usual, they are only seconds away from destroying themselves before they're saved. Wesley's like, thank God, now we'll get that episode where I score with Ashley Judd. Personally, I think this is a bad call. They should have started evacuating. The plan worked. However, they better hurry up because this isn't going to last very long. The next point is lost because they discovered too quick that the Borg ship was going to self-destruct. 1 point lost for Captain Riker leaving the bridge with Wesley in charge during a battle. Deanna's like, oops, the camera's on my butt again. I think I'll move out of the way. Wesley says I number 6. The Borg ship has gone through at least 5 battles with the Federation, so it's much weaker than it looks. So putting them to sleep at such a crucial moment is more likely to cause a self-destruct than if they hadn't been through all those attacks. 1 point is lost for a glass reflection on the right-hand side of the screen. Deanna recites the computer on Vulcan. Jean-Luc says, those are the most grueling contract negotiations I've ever been through. As usual, there are no other spaceships in orbit defending the Earth. 300 years in the future, we are screwed. Sadly, this is the last time we're going to see Commander Shelby. Picard likes Shelby so much he rises at her presence. In reality, all of them are going to get promoted off the Enterprise, and the Enterprise itself will probably end up being that one ship left behind to defend the Earth. Riker says, after what Picard just went through with end-of-season contract negotiations, I'm staying right here. Shelby says she wants to work with them again, but it won't be until Star Trek Picard. Riker leaves to get the ship to McKinley Station. Livingston the fish swims around, and Picard looks like he's gonna throw up all over the place, but I don't really blame him. Then he looks out the window and quietly contemplates all the contract negotiations he just went through. Todd Merrill played Gleason with 21 screen credits and will be back on Trek one more time. George Murdoch left us with 200 screen credits, including Doctor Who and Battlestar Galactica, tons of westerns, and he played the Fake God on Star Trek V. We all thought Elizabeth Dennehy would come back on Star Trek, but it didn't happen. But you can see her on The Guiding Light, Total Recall, Boston Legal with that old weird guy, and she finally made a comeback on Star Trek Picard. The best of both worlds, one of the not-to-be-missed episodes of The Next Generation, gets a score of 45. Thanks for viewing. Be sure to leave comments below, click that like button, the share button, that subscribe button, and I'll see you again for family.